Bakker. Welcome to the Jim Bakker Show. Today, our special guest is New York Times best-selling author David Horowitz. And now, please give a warm welcome to my parents and the host of the Jim Bakker Show, Jim and Lori Bakker.
Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
We have an amazing program.
We do.
I got to introduce a brand new baby in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to have you meet the author of The Big Agenda, President Trump's Plan to Save America, David Horowitz.
Yeah.
He's here with us today on Gray Street. Great. This man has written, I was going to say hundreds of books, but over 50 books. And bestsellers, but amazing books.
Yes.
And this man was really raised, his mom and dad were card-carrying communists.
Right.
And he was a extreme liberal. And today, he is the #1 supporter, I believe, of President Trump.
Yes.
He's a conservative.
Yes.
And how does a man convert to be a conservative from being probably the #1 liberal? But anyhow, forgive me if I say anything wrong. But this is an amazing day. We want to introduce to you a brand new baby on earth.
Yeah. This is one of our newest. This is who I was in the hospital with that one day that I wasn't on the broadcast with you, because I was with Marie and her husband. And they having this baby. And so here we are a few weeks later, and he is saying hi to the world. Hi, Grayson. And his grandma Jan is out in the audience. Hi, Grandma. Grandma to Grandma. So we love you, Grayson. Welcome to our crazy world.
He's the best.
Here we are.
He's the best baby ever.
Did
you know that? I mean, this boy sleeps.
He's a blessing.
And does nothing much more.
Yes, we got to
sleeps.
hang out with Mom and Dad last week, and he definitely sleeps a lot, especially in Mom's arms. He loves to sleep.
He does. He's my little sweetie. I call him my little sweet cheeks, because he has Marie's little sweet cheeks right there.
And we also had another grandbaby.
Yes.
We had a granddaughter.
Right.
And Jamie Charles.
Yes.
And
Karen,
his wife.
Yes.
They just had and gave us our 9th grandchild.
Right.
And we've got one more ready to be born in a few weeks.
That's right.
And that will be number 10 for this year. We'll be
Right.
our
It's
10th.
amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing what a big family will produce. Yes.
So Amelia Faye Bakker
Yes.
has just been born.
So Jamie and Karen.
So are you proud, Sue?
I am over the moon proud.
And thank you, Marie.
You're a good mom. I'm proud. We're proud of you, honey. Here, I'll take your mic. You can take the baby. Okay.
We're so excited today to have our special guest, David Horowitz, author of this bestseller. And if you haven't read it, you better read it.
Yes.
I want to tell you something about
So
this
good.
book. This book could save America.
Yeah.
And if we don't start finding out some answers, I don't know why. I'm going to ask him in a few minutes why conservatives are so laid back, and why we are not almost standing up and shouting, "Stop the madness!"
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
In the front of the book,
Yes.
I happen to enjoy this little page. This is I guess it's page 1. I don't know. But Lori, would you read that for me?
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handled on for them to do the same. Ronald Reagan. Isn't that brilliant? And that is the truth.
And
That is the truth.
David, before I ask you the first question, I want to read from the introduction, if you don't mind. It's Introduction, Restoring the Nation to Greatness. And we may even start talking about that, because my first question is negative, so this is positive. Donald Trump's victory in the 2016 election was a political earthquake. Can you say amen?
Amen.
It put an end to the 8 years of a left-wing presidency that divided the American people, eroded America's sovereignty, diminished America's power, and undermined a constitutional foundation that had made America prosperous and great. Before the election, conservatives were justifiably worried that America's decline was reaching a point of no return. And I'm sorry to say, I believe we're still fighting at that point of no return. So I'm going to ask David about that. Please welcome David Horowitz to our show. Great to have you here.
Great to have you here, David.
Do you feel that we're still in danger?
Absolutely. And it's going to be a long war. And when you think of it, we're always in danger. That Reagan quote. I met Ronald Reagan once, and the first thing he said to me was, I was a second thoughter before you, because he was on the left. And what you understand if you understand the existential situation we're in, if you're a religious person, you understand that the problem is us. The problem is individuals. The problem is that we are fallen creatures and prone to corruption and all the sins that we fight against. So, of course, you have to fight this battle in every generation. But we're at a particularly perilous time in America, because if America goes, the world is gone, too. And we've had a movement, which I was once part of, grow to very powerful dimensions. And Barack Obama has the same background I had. He was brought up by communists, but he never left the communist movement. And he did enormous damage to this country, which Trump is undoing as we speak.
Yeah.
So the battle is being waged now, and it's very vital. And it's going to be touch and go for the next generation.
You write in your book in 1984, you turned a corner in your life when you voted for Ronald Reagan.
It's true. The turning point for me came about 10 years before, when I had raised a lot of money for the Black Panther Party and bought a Baptist church in East Oakland that had been overtaken by the inner city. So it was largely white congregation in the middle of East Oakland, which was mainly black. I created a tax-exempt foundation to run this school. It was a school. I called it the Oakland Community Learning Center. I was editing then the largest magazine of the left. It was called Ramparts. And I recruited my bookkeeper to do the books for the school, because I foolishly thought, I believed our own propaganda that America was racist and they would shut down the school if they didn't keep the books. I recruited a woman named Betty Van Patter, who was 42 years old at the time with 3 children, who had been my bookkeeper, to do the books for the school. And in December 1974, she disappeared. And by the time the police fished her body out of San Francisco Bay in February, I knew the Panthers had killed her. That was when I stopped being a leftist.
Oh,
Wow.
God. What a...
And that came right, if you remember, that's 1974. February, in April, thanks to the Democrats in the Congress, aid was cut off to the South Vietnamese regime, and the communists overran the country, and they proceeded to slaughter 2.5 million people in Indochina, and there wasn't one protest by the left against that. There never was an anti-war movement in America. It's always an anti-American movement.
Oh, my God.
Whoa.
Wow.
This is pretty serious stuff.
Oh.
I want to tell you something. If we're going to save America, this man has written a book called Big Agenda. It's probably the most well-written book on the subject of
Yes.
Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
You'll understand him. You're going to understand what we're fighting and
Yes.
what's going on in America.
That's right.
And as we read in this opening chapter of the book, that if we don't do something, if we don't pass on to our generation, and if we don't stand up right now, the America is in decline, and it was reaching the point of no return, and that's why we had to do it. That's why I felt in my own spirit that we needed to have an election where we changed directions.
That's right.
And I believe God spoke that into my heart.
Yes.
And I have fought at the, almost losing my health for the last year to get this to happen. And when I started reading this book and I began to hear quotes from this book, I began to hear other people on television talk about it. Well, I've now read this book. This book is a must.
Yes.
If we're going to save America, I don't know what's wrong, and I don't want to ask you what's wrong with the church, but I want to ask you what's wrong with the conservative people. We're so quiet and so polite.
Well, there's two issues. One is conservatives are civilized people and well brought up. So they're polite. For example, we'll get to this later, but I have a chapter of my book that's called The Achilles Heel of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party pretends to support minorities, and particularly black people. The Democratic Party controls every inner city of any size in America, 100%, and has for 50 to 100 years. Everything that's wrong with the inner cities in America that policy can affect, every oppression, every injustice, Democrats and progressives are 100% responsible for, and Republicans are too polite to ever mention it. I don't get it as a former leftist. I was brought up for the war, and I don't see on the other side until actually the advent of the Obama has waked people up, and you have the emergence of the Tea Party. It's the first time you have conservatives marching or together. Usually conservatives, everybody is marching to the tune of their own drummer. The second issue is that, and I'm not obviously an expert in this, but the Christian world, particularly the evangelicals, have turned their backs on the world, or had, and were not involved in the fight. And one of the big differences in this election, which I believe is an election to save America, was the role that evangelicals played in supporting Donald Trump.
That's right. That's the truth.
And I'll tell you, they voted. They got up and voted, but now they got to get back up again and stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight. That's the key. Yeah. That is the absolute key. A lot of this book, Big Agenda, is about the left. It's understanding who they are. My parents were communists. They never referred to themselves as, they were card-carrying communists, as communists, always progressives. Liberals, so-called, progressives, and now Democrats, because the Democratic Party has been taken over by the progressives. They believe in a redemption, but they believe that they are the redeemers. And I learned this reading a congressional testimony from a former Sandinista. Of course, the Sandinistas were the Marxists who took over Nicaragua. And one of the Sandinista leaders was a priest named Jose Cardinal. And this was an ex-guerrilla who was testifying. And he said, Cardinal came to us to preach a sermon. And the sermon he preached to these Marxist guerrillas is, "You are the Christ." That was a revelation to me, because it rang so true to what I understood, how I believed when I was on the left. We were going to save the world, to redeem the world. If you have read the first 18 chapters of Genesis, you know that the reason the world is in the horrible state it's in is because of us, and that only a divinity could save us.
Right.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
Good. Powerful.
And that's why they're so dangerous. If you have people who think they're saving the world, and that's why if you look at what happened during the campaign, here's the difference between the left and the right. Donald Trump is on a bus with Billy Bush 11 years ago. He doesn't know he's being televised.
Right.
And he's doing some really rude and crude boasting. That tape is leaked to sabotage his campaign. And one top Republican after another says, that's a bridge too far, I can't support him. Paul Ryan said it, Mitt Romney said it, Jeb Bush, I still can't believe what Jeb Bush said. I have 2 precious granddaughters, and nothing Donald Trump, because of course he apologized, could redeem that or excuse that. Okay, then you go to the other side. Hillary Clinton, she violated the espionage laws by taking classified information and putting it on an unsecure server and sharing it basically with all our enemies. She lied to the FBI. She lied to the Congress. She lied to the mother of a fallen Benghazi victim over his coffin.
Yes, she did.
And not one Democrat said, this is a bridge too far, I can't support her. They're communists, and a small c. That's the way they behave, and that's who they are.
Don't go away. We'll be right back after this special message.
We put together this family gathering bundle.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
And it's only $450.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And so that is a year and 4 months.
Yes, sir.
That is a tremendous saving. And when you get this food, you get the fruit variety bucket, 199 serving. You get a vegetable variety bucket, 109 servings. You get the gluten-free black bean bucket, 215 servings. You get the Fiesta bucket, 196. That's the whole Mexican bucket.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And then we have the French toast kit, which was just developed last
John's
month.
right.
And so it's a $925 value. So you're going to save $475. And then you get this bonus of 2 boxes of each flavor of Frontier Bites.
Right.
And so there's macadamia, pineapple, coconut. There's pecan, cherry, cinnamon. There's almond, blueberry, lemon. And so you get, how many boxes of that now?
2 of each flavor.
This is a special product that's only going to be for this special week.
That's right.
That's right. It's good.
Okay, now you have the new meal extenders. This
Yes.
is a John Shorey thing. This meal extenders is 1,837 servings.
It's good. That's
There's almost 2 years of food.
Right.
so-
Right.
And extenders, they're like, put some water in the soup, Ma.
Yes.
Because we got company.
That's
you know,
right.
and that's what extenders are.
Yes.
And I think we ought to order one right now.
I do too. This
because
is great.
we've got lots of food stored away.
Right.
But when people drop in,
Right.
they can eat a lot.
Well, the extenders
Add
are.
some
You have to add some
extenders, that's right.
extenders like
Okay,
lentil bean bucket, which is 386 servings.
I could sing the Hallelujah chorus. I love lentils. I'm a lentil fan.
It's true.
They give me energy.
Yes.
Can't you tell?
Yes.
Okay, pinto beans.
432 servings.
That's right.
So then what's the next one?
White rice bucket,
How many servings?
405.
Then what is this vegetable stew mix? 388 servings.
Yes.
So then the potato slice bucket. So what can you do with a potato slice?
Anything. Eat it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever you want to do. You can fry it up. You can boil it. You can add it to stew, soups, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so here we have the new meal extenders. These are extenders.
Well, with the meal extender bundle, you also get a bonus
Yes.
as well. You receive 2 boxes of each flavor of the Frontier Bites
Yes.
that we all love so much, and that's macadamia, pineapple, coconut, pecan, cherry, cinnamon, almond, blueberry, lemon, and they are wonderful. They're only 8 ingredients in
So
these.
you're
wonderful
getting 1
things.
year, 8 months of food. So for $550, and you're getting this set of 2 boxes of
and 6
each,
pouches.
2
comes
boxes of
in
each flavor
each
Frontier
box.
Bites.
So call 1-888-988-1588 or write us today at P.O. Box 7330, Branson, Missouri 65615, or go to the website jimbakkershow.com. Wow.
You mentioned all the major cities are controlled by the left. And I grew up in Michigan. I'm from a little town called Muskegon, Michigan, across the state from Detroit, Michigan. So when we'd go to the big city of Detroit, it was a big thing. I saw my first motion picture, by the way, in the wicked city of Detroit, Michigan. But Detroit at that point, when I was a little boy, was beautiful buildings, beautiful theaters, beautiful factories even, really great architecture. And today, Detroit looks like a bomb hit it.
That's exactly right. Many bombs.
Many bombs, yeah.
They've destroyed Detroit. And you can date it from 1961. 1961, Detroit had the richest per capita population in the country. It was the industrial jewel of the United States. That's when a Democrat mayor was elected. And over the next, whatever it is, 30 or 40 years, Detroit went into such a decline, it lost 2/3 of its population. And it's a bombed out city. And its poverty rates are off the charts. It's 100% controlled by the Democratic Party. But every killing field in America, Chicago, St. Louis, Louis, Ferguson.
That's just up the lake from my hometown.
Yes.
And Chicago, I loved Chicago. I'd go there and see the great department stores when I was a little boy in the L there, you know, and all.
Oh, yeah.
And today, do you know the population of Chicago is going down instead of up?
Of course.
Right now.
It's too dangerous.
People are leaving
You
Chicago.
can get killed in Chicago sooner than you get killed in Iraq. But it's not just Chicago, it's St. Louis, Ferguson, St. Louis, Baltimore. These are all cities that are 100% controlled by the Democratic Party and have been for 50 to 100 years. And that, look, the catch and release policies, Dwayne Wade's aunt, beautiful mother of 4 children, was killed by 2 felons who shouldn't have been on the street, but the Democrats have the catch and release policy. And then they have gun control, so law-abiding citizens in the inner city can't get guns to defend themselves. I mean, they don't have Secret Service. If you were a welfare mother in Detroit, the only protection you would have is what you can put in your night table drawer, and they can't get it.
When we have cities where you can run and hide and you can commit a crime, you can be a murderer, and you can have safe haven.
Sanctuary cities.
Yeah. Is that, how do you explain that?
The Sanctuary Cities movement was created by the ACLU, which is a supporter of terrorists. It's an organization that gets the terrorists out of Guantanamo. They devised this after 9/11 to sabotage the Patriot Act. That's what it was designed. Actually, I have several pages in my book, Big Agenda, about this, and I print the Sanctuary City resolution, and it's like 350 Democrat-controlled cities. And they say you can't cooperate with the Department of Homeland Security. They don't want you to look at people's beliefs. It bars local authorities from looking at the beliefs. Look, if you believe that Islam is the only religion, that everybody else is an infidel, and if your Bible says slay the infidels wherever you find them, and then you have a system of laws, Sharia, which imposes an Islamic religious code that takes away the rights of women, takes away the rights of gays, takes away the rights actually of everybody who doesn't follow the orthodoxy of the church, you got a dangerous person.
That's right.
But why do you think the FBI, every time they get one of these terrorists, they already had him on the files? Why do you think they can't prosecute them or do something about it? It's because of this injunction that it's religion and they're protected. They have religious freedom, but Christians, I don't know, who don't want to serve cakes at gay marriages, they don't have religious freedom.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
You're telling the truth. I mean, this is the flat out truth.
You know, the thing I'm concerned about is, you know, I'm one of the few ministers in America that has dared to buck the Johnson Amendment.
Right.
And stand up for
Right.
what we believe.
Yes.
And to stand up for change in America.
Yes.
And the thing that's really difficult for me to understand is why the biggest share of churches and ministries just simply are not addressing where we are right now. We're having an investigation, I don't know what you would call it, of our president right now. Even as we're taping this show, they're interrogating the former head of the FBI,
Right. James Comey,
and other,
yes.
you know, and they've been doing this, and our government and our senators and Congress, they're working as hard as they can to indict the president of the United States, to destroy the president.
It isn't going to happen, but this is the weirdest, most extreme witch hunt in the history of the country. There's no evidence whatsoever.
That's
and,
right.
And you talk about the Democrats, they're the people who, during the Cold War, said there was a moral equivalence with the Soviet Union. We were as bad as they were. I mean, it's ridiculous. Totally absurd. But I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the American people are too smart. I mean, Donald Trump could never have been elected if people believed what they read in the newspapers and saw on television.
That's the truth.
Amen.
Absolutely.
My dear friend Alan Dershowitz
Yes.
made a statement. Can I just roll that right now? Guys in the control room, please roll that, would you?
So, Professor Dershowitz, you said this is not obstruction of justice by the president and that it actually strengthens his position against Director Comey. How so?
Well, first of all, let's look at the big constitutional picture. The president could have told Comey, you are commanded, directed to drop the prosecution against Flynn. The president has the right to do that. Comey acknowledges that. He says in the statement that historically, presidents have done that to the Justice Department. But in the last few years, we've had a tradition of separation. But that tradition doesn't create crime. Remember also what the president could have done. He could have said to Comey, stop this investigation. I am now pardoning Flynn. That's what President Bush did. You cannot have obstruction of justice when the president exercises his constitutional authority to pardon, his constitutional authority to fire the director of the FBI, or his constitutional authority to tell the director of the FBI who to prosecute, who not to prosecute.
My dear friend Alan Dershowitz, who's the reason I'm sitting here as a free man today.
Right.
And I honor this man. And he is a Democrat.
The last true liberal.
But what do you think of what he think of what he just said?
I think he's absolutely right, and it shows how absurd this whole thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we don't have enough Republicans like Trump yet.
Right.
This is very important because Trump is not afraid to confront the left for what they are. I mean, one of my favorite moments was during the debates when he looked Hillary Clinton in the eye and he said, "You're a liar and a crook," which he is both. But there's not another Republican in the entire country who would say that to her because she's a woman. Right. And they're all so politically correct.
We've got to come and face the truth.
Yes.
Our churches will close down soon if we don't see a change in America. You don't understand it. It's time. And that's why today I want you to get this book.
Yes.
I made a vow 2 years ago I was not going to promote books anymore. And yet we became the #1 seller of books in America.
It's crazy, but true.
They just...
If I was you, I would call right now because
Lori, you read it.
I did, and I this book, you have made it so easy for the average person like me to understand what's going on.
Listen, this man is a brilliant, brilliant man.
Yes.
He's a genius, I believe, with all my heart.
Me too.
He is so brilliant. And yet he has written a book that I can understand and you can understand. And he is telling the truth.
Yes.
Yes, he is.
My God, what's wrong with truth?
Right.
You know, truth will actually set you free.
That's what the Bible says. Jesus said that.
I'm so concerned about America that I didn't know if this man would come on my show or not because he's so famous and probably rich. I don't know. But So
But-
he's probably rich and famous.
Again, from your lips to God's.
Yes.
We're all going to
Well,
be using
it
that
should
from
be with
now
all
on,
the books
David.
you've written anyway.
Yes,
And,
we're all using that from now on.
I want you to read the book.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
you can't, go to the library and get it if
Yeah.
you won't order it from me.
It's excellent.
I'm not in the book business, but I get in it whether I want to or not. And I'll tell you what, and I only offer books that I believe in.
It's the truth. It's
I
so
only-
true. And I have to say,
would you do something? Buy this book, wrap it in a plain brown wrapper, and send it to your pastor, your priest, your rabbi. Just send it to him. And without
Churches have got to get into this fight, this political fight.
yes.
I still cannot quite understand how the Christian world could sit and be silent while ISIS was slaughtering the oldest Christian community on the planet, which is in Iraq.
Yeah.
The cathedral in Mosul had continuous sermons since the time of St. Paul
My goodness.
until Obama let them in, let these ISIS terrorists
Think
in
about that.
by pulling us out of Iraq, by ending the base there. And the churches have, where are they?
Yeah. Wait.
Why aren't they fighting? I mean, it is a life and death issue.
ISIS destroying every church, every monument, everything that they can destroy.
Progressivism, you have to understand the threat from progressivism. It's a rival religion. That's why they're so anti-religious. They see God-fearing people
It's a
as
religion that
threat.
wants to wipe out all the other religions.
Oh, and that believes that they're the saviors.
Right.
Do you guys get it at all?
Yeah.
You look at me like I'm, deers in the headlight. Do you understand what he's telling us? But first of all, before the end of the show, I want you to order the book
Yes.
before the lines are jammed. You'll understand Trump. Some of you people, you think Trump is, I'll tell you what some of you think he's kooky. You think he's a little different. You think he's strange. You think, and they all kind of, and you think combs his hair funny. You just think all kinds of things. And people, this is not about Trump.
No.
He is important, and he has a big agenda. And this book will give you the Trump agenda. It will give it to you in plain English. It will tell you what happened in America. Here's a man sitting by me who was a communist. He was a liberal Democrat. I'm not insulting you.
I was always to the left of the Democratic Party because it wasn't that left when I was young.
Right.
It was an American party. Now it's an anti-American party.
What was communism like when your parents and all you?
Well, they were part of a vast international conspiracy orchestrated from Moscow. They wanted Stalin and the Soviet Union to win the Cold War. My parents were school teachers. They were law-abiding citizens, but they had secret party names for the day when the revolution would come, and they would be overthrowing the government and making us like Soviet Russia. That was their idea. The difference between today's progressives is that the Soviet Union is no longer their icon, but their mentality is exactly the same. They want to overthrow the American way. Let me give you, I've written about this, that we're really in a civil war period. First of all, we have a tradition in America of a honeymoon for an incoming president. Why is that? It's because America, unlike other countries, we're not subject to all these violent revolutions and coups d'etats because we have a framework created by the founders which says we're all part of one country and we settle our disputes by elections. So when an election is over, you have a honeymoon for the incoming president, which says, okay, the campaign was divisive. That's what campaigns are. Harsh things were said, but we're still all Americans. And therefore, we're going to confirm, as long as you didn't, have nominated people of bad character or what have you, we're going to confirm your team, let you get your team in place, and start your agenda before we start attacking you. And Gallup says that the average honeymoon for an incoming president is 7 months. Trump didn't get 7 seconds.
No.
He didn't get confirmation hearings. He got a witch hunt.
That's right.
He got Jeff Sessions is one of the most decent, half a dozen most decent human beings in the United States Senate. He was really a champion of civil rights. He was the attorney general in a deep South state, Alabama, which is where the civil rights movement was born. He prosecuted the Ku Klux Klan. He sent a Klan leader to his death for a racial murder. He desegregated the schools. And the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Blumenthal, all said he was a racist. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
But that's the reception Trump got. And then they were attacking him from calling for his impeachment before he was even sitting in the Oval Office.
Impeachment.
Yeah,
that's what we keep at. Impeachment for what, Maxine Waters?
Let me explain the Civil War.
Okay.
Why is it so bad? Because the Democratic Party is driven by an ideology which is fundamentally anti-American. It's called identity politics. America was founded by Protestants, basically, and could only have been founded by Protestants, because the Protestant Reformation was to take out human institutions like the church out of the communication between an individual and his or her creator. And in our birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence, it says in so many words that we are all endowed by our Creator. Our Creator sees us as equals. We're equal in His eyes, so we need to be equal before the government. The government cannot interfere with this relationship. That's the genius of America. So we were founded by people who came from many different countries. We're very diverse communities. And we pledged ourselves to treat each individual on their merits as equals, regardless of origins. It took us 200 years to make good on that promise, which was made good on by the Civil Rights Acts of 64 and 65. What drives the Democratic Party today? To judge everybody on their origins, your race, your color, your gender, your sexual orientation. That's what we see first. And we excuse everything else. So you have career predators. Just take Freddie Gray in Baltimore. Spend his life preying on the black community. He's a civil rights hero, a civil rights martyr now. The Democratic view of the world is anti-American. Not only un-American, it's anti-American. And that's why we're in this fundamental clash between left and right. The right, we stand for individuals, for equality, for judging people regardless of their origins.
Brilliant.
This book.
And let me just say for Trump, they attacked his inaugural address because he talked about the carnage in the inner cities, as though that doesn't exist.
That's true.
This is what the Democrats, they want to cover up the murders of black people and Hispanics too in the inner cities. But Trump said in the inaugural, though, is this. He posed this American idea of we're all one as Americans, as children of one creator. He said, if we are loyal to our country, we can learn to be loyal to each other. If we have patriotism in our hearts, there will be no room for prejudice. We are black and brown and white, but we all bleed patriot.
Yeah.
Right.
Why? Where are the men and the great leaders that would stand up against this trial of our president for no crime? They're going to create a crime if they can.
Well, yeah, it's what the KGB head Lavrenti Beria said to Stalin. Show me the crime or show me the man and I'll give you the crime.
People, are you watching what's going on in America?
Yes.
Are you understanding what's going on? Yes. They've taken a duly elected president and they put him on trial for a crime that most people don't even know what the crime is.
Right.
They're trying to make up a crime.
They don't
that
even
he's-
say, what's the crime?
Right.
They don't even say the crime.
Exactly. That's
There's
true.
no crime.
Why are they obsessed with Russia?
Because it's a stick to beat the president with, and the Democrats, and they're going to fail. I don't believe out in this part of the country or the whole center of the country, people are really concerned that Vladimir Putin has Trump in his pocket. That's ridiculous.
Nobody has Trump in their pocket. I want to tell you that. That's one thing you can say about Trump. This book, would you? I'm going to have you back tomorrow, God willing. But they don't come for me. But it's time to get educated.
It is.
And I'm
Time.
recommending you order this book.
Yes.
This book is a $26.99 book, and today it's cheaper than anywhere else that I know of. If you go other places online and all, it's going to be a lot. And so we're offering it for a $15 gift to our ministry today.
That's the cheapest.
Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Maybe if you're not ready yet, tune in tomorrow, and you're going to hear a lot more. And this is the enemy. How come you're still alive? They don't want you alive, do they? You're really telling it like it is.
Well, here I tell my wife this.
You have a
she
lovely
gets
wife,
worried
April.
for me.
Hello,
Yes,
April. April's in the
April's
front.
with us today.
Well, thank you for coming
Beautiful.
to our show.
Beautiful.
April. There's April right there.
So nice to have you with us.
And that is when I began. I wrote, for example, a book in 2004 called Unholy Alliance, which was about radical Islam and the American left. They're colluding with each other. And I was nervous at that time because there were so few of us warning about the threat from Islam. But now there are so many. I can't retire, and I wouldn't know how to retire.
Don't retire.
But I could retire because there are so many conservative, especially younger conservatives, fighting these battles and using the same kind of language that I do. And it's even like Tucker Carlson, Greg Gutfeld. There's a lot of them on TV.
Yes.
When I used to see a Republican square off with a Democrat, it looked to me like Godzilla versus Bambi, because the Democrat is calling the Republican racist, sexist, homophobe, Islamophobe, xenophobe, which are all words designed to drum you out of the human race. And the Republican is calling the Democrat liberal.
Right. You're right.
Who's going to win that battle?
That's
No.
right.
That
But
sounds
now,
nice,
now
actually.
people understand.
Yeah.
They understand. And I wait for the Republican who will look the Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the eye and say, how can you belong to a racist party like this? A party that ranks people according to their race. A party that owns the inner cities in America and does nothing to help them.
You know, I almost said I beg you to read this book.
Oh.
Honestly, if you can't afford it, go to the library. I'm sure do they put it in the library, or
Well, you can
are
get
you
it-
banned in the library?
You can get
But this man is banned on almost every liberal.
not so liberal.
Not so liberal.
They're not so liberal because they banned this
I can't
man.
go to a college without bodyguards.
Oh, I can imagine. And
where did you go to school?
Yes.
I went to Berkeley.
And so you went to Berkeley. Now wait a minute.
I was a radical at Berkeley.
Were you
A ra-
allowed?
a
Are you allowed to go to Berkeley? Will they let you go now?
Well, what they did was I was on the phone with the vice chancellor and the police chief, the campus police chief, and they told with the students who invited me, and they told them I had to speak at 1 o'clock, which is when classes are starting for the afternoon, so nobody's going to come. I had to speak at a facility they had, which was a mile off campus. And the police chief then said, and you can announce the event, but you can't advertise its location. I said, come again? I said, you're inviting me, but
Exactly.
you're going to hide me? And then they slapped on these kids a $6,000 security fee and $2,000 for the room that was a mile away from campus.
Oh,
so the kids backed out. But I'm going back in the fall.
You are. USC Berkeley.
With Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos, we're going to occupy Berkeley.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow,
We'll be praying for you and stand up for truth.
I wanted to say we're going to offer 6, half a dozen of the books for a gift of $88. And why $88? Well, to help support the ministry. But 88 is the number 8 biblically is new beginnings.
Right.
So 88 is double beginning and double beginning, double new beginnings. And America needs a new beginning.
Yes.
This book is a beginning for you. You need to read this book.
Yes.
So if you are really enthused, and the problem is you're going to get enthused when you read the book, but I want you to get a half a dozen of these books and give one to your ministers, to the priests, to the rabbis, to everybody you can think of, and your neighbors, your friends, your children. If you want them, we're in a fight for the very survival of America and for the church. And I want you to do that. So for $88 gift, you're going to get 6 books.
Right.
And I know
That's
that's still a savings on it.
It is. It's a savings of $74. It's a value of $162
value for $88 of this. This is on the New York Times bestseller list right now.
That's right.
This is a hot book. We don't offer dead books. This is a hot book. And I want you to get it. And I want you to get 6 of them, $88 gift. I want you to give them out. You want to be an evangelist, you want to be a missionary, you want to be a teacher, and you can't. Well, give this man who has really, he has walked a long walk through life. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 78.
Wow.
Oh,
he's my age almost. I mean, I'm almost his age. 78.
You're apart.
So he's walked through life.
Awesome.
And he's learned so much.
Yes.
He has so much to give.
Yes.
And I want you, and if you can't get 6 of them, get 1.
Right.
For the lowest price that I know of in America. In fact, David said it's the lowest that he's heard of.
That's right.
So for a gift of $15.
I don't even sell it that cheap.
He don't even sell it.
That's right.
He probably can't even buy them from the publisher for that cheap. So, but
So you should
we do that because we buy in such great volume that we get amazing deals.
Yes. So just call right now, 1-888-988-1588, or go to the website, jimbakkershow.com. You can still write at P.O. Box 7330, Branson, Missouri, 65615.
Probably the last question on today's show. Please tune in tomorrow. There'll be so much more.
Yes.
But I'm going to ask you, what is the big agenda? Is that a okay
it's
question?
very simple because the country is in such dire straits. It's make America safe again, make America great, make America prosperous. It's everything that you've heard. What I did in this book is to give a profile of what we're up against. That's how you can understand how important Trump is. What we're up against. There was a seminal moment in the second debate when he turned to the television cameras and the 50 million people watching and said, you have to understand Hillary has tremendous hatred in her heart.
We have an increase in murder within our cities, the biggest in 45 years. We have a divided nation because people like her, and believe me, she has tremendous hate in her heart. And when she said deplorables, she meant it. And when she said irredeemable, they're irredeemable. You didn't mention that. But when she said they're irredeemable, to me, that might have been even worse.
She said some of them are irredeemable.
She's got tremendous hatred. And this country cannot take another 4 years of Barack Obama. And that's what you're getting with her.
There's no other Republican who would ever have said that. What was he referring to? He was referring to her comment that Trump supporters belong in a basket of deplorables and irredeemables.
Oh, remember
Interesting
that?
choice of words.
Oh, yes.
Can't be redeemed.
Oh.
And then she named them: racist, sexist, homophobes, Islamophobes, xenophobes.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
There's not a conservative listening to this show or in this country who has been in an argument with a so-called liberal who has not also been called a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, or an Islamophobe. The Democratic Party is a party of hate. That's what they run on. They accuse Republicans of being racist, sexist, etc. It's to drum us out of the human race. That's the way they think of religious. Look, they think of themselves, think about it. You think you're the savior. You think that if you get enough power, if you tax people enough, if you concentrate enough power in Washington, if you get control of the intelligence services, you can redeem the world. You see yourself as the army of the saints, and you see us as the party of the devil. That's the way they look at the world. You have to understand it's like a counter religion.
You said you've been waiting 30 years for someone like Trump to come along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've waited somebody to point to what the Democrats have done to minorities in the inner cities. What Republican has done that except Trump?
That's true. That's true.
I waited for, a Republican who would say to their face, to Hillary's face, "You're a liar and a crook," which he is. The Democrats aren't shy. They're calling Trump a traitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Impeachable.
It's their president. I mean, if Franklin Roosevelt had given nuclear weapons and $200 billion to Adolf Hitler, what would we call him?
Oh, my
Traitor.
God.
A traitor, and that's what Obama is.
Mm.
But there isn't a Republican with the spine to say so.
Mm.
You know, I'm not an evangelical, so I don't fully understand the argument about this world and the next. Mm-hmm. But you've got to get engaged or there won't be a church.
That's right.
You won't be able to save souls if you sit on your hands any longer.
Boy. Now
When
that's
when you order the book today,
just challenge.
we've been talking a lot about
the church.
Ronald Reagan on this show.
Yes.
This is my interview. The lost interview has been lost for 35 years.
Yes.
We found it's never been aired before, except when we just found it. And it's an unbelievable interview.
Yes.
And you'll understand why I think the world of this man when you see my private interview with this president, Ronald Reagan.
Right. This was taped in 1979. He was running for president of the United States, and it was shortly before he was elected. And I'm going to tell you, you call it, Jim, we watched it. It's amazing. You can't even believe it, actually. And David, I think you'll find this interesting. We want to make sure we can take one home with you. But everyone, you'll receive this if you ask for it when you call to order David's book.
Just say, I want my free copy.
Yes.
And I'll give you that video of it. You said Trump's blowing up political correctness was a watershed event in itself.
Yes, because political correctness is a polite term for the Communist Party line. That's the way I'll describe it. Political correctness is a term invented by Mao Zedong, the greatest mass murderer in human history, for people who deviated from the party line. If you didn't follow the orthodoxy, that's what it's about. That's why the Democrats march in lockstep, because they're afraid of deviating. It takes enormous courage or stupidity to cross that line, because you get thrown into the outer cold if you do. So it's why Republicans won't say to Hillary Clinton, "You're a crook." It's why they won't say she has tremendous hatred in her heart. It's why they won't say the Democrats are a racist party. Then what is identity politics? It's racism. You know, it's like there's a term they have there, you know, like they have undocumented immigrants, as though these people lost their documents.
That's right. Wow.
To cover the fact that this is an invasion by people coming here illegally and disregarding our laws, and it undoes our sovereignty. It's a contempt for our sovereignty as a nation.
I've got about a dozen more questions for today. I'm going to have to do them tomorrow.
Yep.
And I will ask tomorrow for you guys, if you tune in, who is the shadow government? I always want to know that. Why are people on both sides of the aisle looking for every reason to impeach our president, President Trump, since his first day in office? And why is the Republican Party a concern with you? Republicans currently rule the House and Senate. Why are your concerns about Congress? Are they abusing their power? Why are Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton staying so involved right now? Why can't President Trump not fire Obama's old team that are still in the White House?
Oh, good question.
Boy, somebody almost broke out in applause.
We
there.
want to know the answer.
And you believe we're living in a very serious, dark time? Do you fear that President Trump could be assassinated? Tomorrow's show, we don't have time. We're totally gone.
Yes.
Order your book.
Get this book.
This is the best buy in town, but this is the book you've got to have in your house. Get a half a dozen of them for $88 gift to the ministry, and give them to your family and friends. You need to know what's going on. Too many church people are putting their head in the ground. They're hiding from truth. And you've got to know, because if we are going to win, we need to know what our enemy's doing and who they are and what's going on.
Right.
I want to thank you so much, David Horowitz, for being with us today. One of the great authors of all time.
So great.
God loves you. He really does. Bye-bye for today.
Bye-bye. We love you.
Coming soon to Morningside in the Jim Bakker Show. Pastor Frank Amelia returns on Tuesday, June 27th. Bobby Connor returns to Morningside on Thursday, June 29th. Mike and Cindy Jacobs return to Morningside on Tuesday, July 4th. Our friends Pat and Karen Schatzline will be back at Morningside on Wednesday, July 5th. Tom Horn, Jennifer LeClaire, Donna Howell, and Derek Gilbert return to the Jim Bakker Show on Friday, July 7th. Don't forget our annual 4th of July celebration, July 1st through the 8th, a Morningside tradition. Come on out and join us for music, worship, ministry, teaching, prophetic words, and so much more, with guests like John Shorey, James Huey, Bobby Connor, Bill the Junkman Whaley, Hubie Sin, Dr. Cheryl Selman, and many more. Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis will return to Morningside Friday, July 28th. We're honored to have evangelist Alveda King with us Thursday, August 24th. Author and prophet Rick Joyner will be sharing a powerful word. Join us every night at 7 p.m. for The Prophet Speak, an evening filled of worship and ministry. For our full schedule, go online to jimbakkershow.com. We can't wait for you to see what God's doing here at Morningside.